Hi there, my name is Anna-Marie Lamond and I'm an artist and mentor on this year's Creature Conserve Mentorship Program. And right now I have the joy of introducing the wonderful SEFI George, who is going to do her final mentorship symposium presentation. And it's been a joy to work with SEFI over these past few months. SEFI is an illustrator, she's also a social anthropologist, and she is based in Mumbai in India, and she had a career in academics in the social anthropology world, and then took a detour and did a course in children's book illustration. And what I can say about SEFI is that over the course of this mentorship program, from her original idea, her original presentations, through her development and through to the final presentation of her project, she has been one of the most hardworking artists I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Even the pleasure of following on Instagram. Her Instagram is Summer Scribbles, and you can keep up to date with her work and progress there. And I think what really sets her apart is not only her talent and dedication to the project, as well as the wider context of trying to enable and facilitate connection between human and nature through workshops and through her picture books and through her illustrations and her other myriad of projects that she's got on the go, is her talent and awareness of her place within the human and nature, and her ability to communicate her position in that as well. So very excited to see her final project. I'm sure you guys are too. And I won't say too much about the project, but it's very exciting. It's to do with nature journaling, and it's been developed through a series of in-person workshops, as well as considering her development through different methodologies as well. So she's really put her idea out there, taken a step back, rethought her idea, and yeah, it's been, as I said, it's been a joy to work with her. So without further ado, thank you very much and enjoy the presentation, and good luck, SEFI. You're great.
So with that, SEFI, I'll pass things over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Give me 1 second while I set my presentation. One second, just give me a second. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm really delighted to come to the end of this mentorship program, which helped me grow so much as an artist. My name is SEFI George. I am from Mumbai, and I professionally work as an illustrator, but I also teach anthropology and sociology at a design school. I create illustrations, custom artwork, and conduct workshops through my brand, Summer Scribbles. I've had the privilege of working on multiple projects linked to wildlife, including a book called Living with Leopards with the State Forest Department, as well as a calendar that highlights the wildlife of India's national parks. You can find more of my work on Instagram at Summer Scribbles and on Behance as SEFI Summer Scribbles. I'm really excited to share my project that I've been working on over the last 6 months. With the help of my mentor, Anna-Marie Lamond, we've been creating a nature journal picture book that showcases different methods of observing and recording nature based in suburban Mumbai. I've titled this picture book, Drawing to See, Connecting with Nature Through Nature Journaling. Now, if you're wondering why I titled this Drawing to See, I want you to take a moment and imagine that you're sitting in a garden looking up at an interesting tree. You have your sketchbook in your hand and a pencil, and you try to draw it. As you draw the tree, you begin to pay attention to it. You begin to notice every line, every curve, every detail that makes that tree unique. As Michael Taussig, citing John Berger, says, a line drawn is important not for what it records, so much as what it leads you on to see. Because you're drawing the tree, you're actually looking at it much more deeply than before. You're not just drawing the tree though, you're building a relationship with it. And this act of noticing the tree makes you build a relationship with it, and it's no longer a blur of green in the background. It becomes your friend. It becomes a neighbor in the shared biosphere. And this awareness leads to a fierce need to protect and nurture it. This is the power of drawing as a bridge to nature. For this picture book, I started off with two broad purposes. Firstly, I wanted to introduce nature journaling as a concept, which is not very popular in India. I wanted to create a book that I wish I had as a child when I started out looking at nature. This book is intended to be a resource for learning and teaching nature journaling, showing different methods and tools for recording observations, and also to teach the art of communication, how communication is so much more than just words. It's pictures, it is the nuances of your thoughts, it's numbers, it's so much more than just words. I also wanted to highlight nature in Mumbai. When we think of nature, going out into nature, we think of going into a deep forest or going for a safari. But we never pay attention to the nature that exists right in our backyards. The tree that we can look out from our window and, explore, the tree that we can look out of our window and explore all the creatures that live in it. Or the gardens that we can immediately check out and, learn about the creatures that live there. One of the main purposes for this book was to highlight the local flora and fauna that citizens can easily see and recognize. I want this book to be a nudge to Mumbaikars to go out and explore their city, to understand the wildness that exists in this city space. My project started out with exploration. Since I do not have a natural sciences background, I have a social sciences background, it took a lot of exploration to get to where I am today. I went for a ton of nature trails, guided nature trails. I read a lot of books. I bought a lot of field guides and went through them trying to identify creatures. I explored areas of my city that are both wild as well as the core of the city. Even in the midst of buildings, there's a lot of nature to be found. I really explored my city as much as possible, and I would really like to continue that in the coming few months. I also got in touch with a lot of experts from various fields, ornithology, or the people who know a lot about trees. They may not necessarily be scientists, but they have enough of local knowledge to tell me about trees. The next step is, of course, exploration. My sketchbook, my nature journal, helped me see a lot better. It helped me try out different tools and techniques to be able to communicate my thoughts to others. I also took some nature journaling workshops where I tried to nudge people to notice nature. And I also learned a lot from them, because when you see how different people approach nature, you begin to look at the new ways in which you can approach nature too. In a group of 20, if there are 2 kids, they will notice things that are so much more different than what the adults will notice. When adults usually get into a forest, they want to see something big and fancy, a leopard, a tiger, a fancy bird. But kids are happy exploring a spider web for 2 hours. And that kind of perspective is very exciting. It's something that, adults really need to take a step back and see what are we missing out on by expecting something big from nature. Through this process of exploration, journaling, and taking workshops, I compiled a list of 22 prompts as a starting point. Why prompts? Because if I just give you a sketchbook and tell you to go out and start nature journaling, it's very unlikely that you'll know what to do. But giving you a clear direction, giving you a task that you have to complete out in nature, forces you to pay attention, forces you to actually look and pay attention to what's around you. I started off by writing a list of 22 prompts. And then I just started trying to make these prompts into my journal pages. But over a few meetings with my mentor, I realized that this looks like a nature journal, a personal nature journal, not necessarily like a book. At which point she guided me a lot by telling me to approach this as a book. So my personal nature journal pages are my personal pages. They are where I study. But this project that I'm doing is a book. It's supposed to be something that people can refer to. So what I did in this case is I referred to my nature journals, I referred to the studies that I had done, and I planned out a complete book. So I started off with thumbnails, sketches, rough drawings, and to the final finished pieces, which I would love to show you today. All of the artwork in this book is made using watercolors, color pencils, traditional materials. And yeah, this is my nature journaling kit. So when I head out to observe nature in my city, these are the things that I carry along with me. And the handwriting, the font used in this book is also made from my own handwriting. So I've tried to make it as personalized as possible, because even though it is a book, it's still a part of me. It's a part of my personal nature journal. So coming to the actual pages, let's start with this one, a very exciting nature scavenger hunt. The prompt I used for this was to try and find anything in nature that is red. I picked out a color, and that gave me a direction to actually go and look for red things in nature. I never really noticed much of this before, but as I began to look at reds, I also began to notice other colors. I began to notice shapes that I could probably search for at a different point. You can look for objects that are in sets of threes or objects that are of a certain shape. It's a really fun treasure hunt to kind of try and find as much as you can. This is also a very interesting page because here we record sounds. So how do you graphically represent, in a book, how do you graphically represent a sound? These are birds that I find in the garden near my home. And while I was sitting and trying to pay attention, I just kept my pen on the paper and moved as I was listening to the bird song. And I realized that these graphical representations actually help me recollect what the bird sounds like. The coppersmith barbet, for example, has a very characteristic tuk, 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 which I kind of try to represent in these little dashes. The spot-breasted fantail flycatcher, I've noticed that this bird has different calls in different parts of my city. So for example, in the garden near my place, it has this call that goes like which I have also tried to make in this little graph here. This is a very fun exercise, and it's something you can do even with non-bird sounds. How does a squirrel sound like, or how does a particular animal make a call? And you don't necessarily have to represent it this way. If you have a color or if you have some other method of showing it, that's up to you. This is where we start to involve numbers. I'm someone who's traditionally been very scared of numbers, very math phobic. But as I came to study art and nature, I realized that we cannot avoid numbers quite often. So this is a really interesting method where we use our own body as a scale to try and measure things in nature. So this is something we have to periodically keep updating, because as your height grows or as you grow older, the measurements of your hands, feet do tend to get different. But it's a good measure to have, because if I can just put a leaf on my palm, I can try and get what the approximate measurement of that would be. Look at the wingspan. When you hold your arms wide open, what distance does that cover? When you hug a tree, you can actually try and sense how big this tree is. This leaves a lot of room for actual exploration, where you're touching nature, you're actually getting close to it. This is a really fun exercise if you're trying to explore a larger area, if you're not planning to just sit in one place. I make these little frames before I head out. And once I'm there, I'm trying to find things to fill into these frames. For example, if you look at the vertical frame right in the center, I found this very interesting tree where it was just next to a pond. And these crows were bathing in the pond and then coming and sitting on the tree and trying to dry their feathers. I thought that would be a perfect motif to fill in this one frame. So when you have these frames ready, it's a matter of, looking for things that you can fill in. And you can have an entire page done and you get a full context of the space that you are in through just a singular page. If you've ever tried to draw a bird, but it keeps moving and you don't know how to actually draw it, just try grabbing its color. Even if you look at a set of few leaves, we always think that leaves are green. But if you actually look at a few different leaves, you'll realize that even that green has so much of variety. Trying to mix that color, trying to actually put it down on paper makes you realize how varied the colors of nature are. It also makes you a better artist as you learn to mix with a limited palette. This is my sit spot. This is an area where I sit and actually observe nature. This is where I've built my intimate connection with nature. Every nature journaler should have a sit spot because this space enables them to actually observe seasonal changes. It helps them observe changes that are happening in their surroundings. For example, my sit spot is this cement structure that overlooks the mangrove forest. Through every season, I can see how the mangroves change. I can see the different kinds of birds that come to this garden, that come to eat the seeds of a tree that grows near my sit spot. And currently, it's a beautiful space. There are a lot of flowering trees and a whole lot of birds that are coming to eat those seeds. And this sit spot of mine is in a public garden that I have made a map of. Now, the reason I've made this map is I have two reasons for making this map. Firstly, it gives me a record of why the space is important to me. I've recorded where I've seen certain birds. The first time I saw Asian paradise flycatcher. The sit spot where I sit, surrounded on two sides by beautiful flowering trees. There's a copperpot tree and a laburnum that flowers with beautiful yellow flowers. There are oriental magpie robins that keep singing around as I sit to journal. And the variety of life in this page indicates the value of preserving the space. This garden, the variety of life in this garden exists because it's next to a mangrove forest, a forest that is constantly under threat from a city that's trying to expand. Over the last few years, I have seen a lot of construction, a lot of sand mining, a lot of debris being dumped into these mangroves. People see it as a waste of space. I hope that maps like this can help people actually understand the variety of life in the space and the value of protecting it. This is another interesting exercise where you try to map out an event that you have seen, whether it's drawing small sketches of a sunset or of an animal chasing another animal, or in this case, a kingfisher trying to eat a really big fish. I spent around 10 minutes observing this beautiful phenomenon. And it was really interesting to see how in between this kingfisher would just stop. And it almost looked like it was contemplating, did I catch one that's too big for me? How am I going to eat this? Am I even a real kingfisher? And I try to make these into little doodles that, try to convey the process of how this event unfolded. I really enjoyed working on this page, as you can probably tell. Lastly, nature journaling is all about how you feel in nature. You do you. If something calls your attention, draw that in. The prompts are a starting point for you to think. It's a point for you to enter nature and know what to look for. But once you build that connection with nature, nature will speak to you. You don't have to go looking for things. You'll find things without even looking. And your nature journal doesn't just have to be about the nature you've experienced. It could also include the long wait at the bus stop, the food you ate while journaling, or a conversation you had with a stranger, anything that serves as a reminder of this day. Because when you look at this page, you will be reminded of this time that you've spent in nature, the things that you have learned. Further on, I really hope to complete a few more pages because I still have a lot of prompts to go. And I think that exploring more of my city is also required. I hope to make this into a book that is around 8 by 8 inches, meant for kids who are 10 or older, and also as a resource for teaching nature journaling. Each of these pages can be a prompt for a workshop where I or other nature educators can tell the participants to go and explore nature in this particular way. I hope to either self-publish this or approach a few Indian publishers to get this work out into the world. Lastly, to conclude, I would like to show you the first 2 pages that I submitted to Creature Conserve as, as a proposal for this project. I think from the time that I submitted this page to the presentation I've made for you today, I have grown as an artist, I have grown as a naturalist, I have grown as a person. I can see how nature journaling has helped me observe and build connections with nature. It has helped me have more control over my mediums. It has helped me plan my layouts better. It has helped me be a better illustrator too. And I think through this process, through the iterations that I had working on the spreads, I think I've grown as a designer too. I can think of what the audience would perceive and what they could learn from it. I'm really thankful to the Creature Conserve team, especially to my mentor, Anna, and Derek, Lucy, all of you who have been supporting me and also challenging me a lot. I've got some really interesting insights and questions that prompted me to go back to the drawing board and rethink what I'm doing, why am I doing this, and what value can it add. I really hope that this book comes to fruition very soon. And I really thank you all for the kind of support that I've got through this community. Thank you so much.